Welcome to the SAP HANA Academy. My name is Bob, and in this series of videos we'll be looking at SAP S4 HANA. In this video series we'll be looking at how to extend S4 HANA with external data. And in this second video we'll be looking at how to configure the SAP HANA Smart Data Integration data provisioning agent. Please note that this video set shows certain features in the SAP HANA database which may require specific licenses even if you are using S4 HANA. If you are using your own S4 HANA system and are not using the S4 HANA trial, please contact your account executive or partner manager to see if you are licensed to use these SAP HANA database features. They are SAP HANA Smart Data Access, SAP HANA Smart Data Integration, creating a virtual table in SAP HANA, and creating a calculation view in SAP HANA. In the previous video we loaded some data into Hive, and what we need to do now in this video is actually set up the SAP HANA data provisioning agent. So there's an assumption when it comes to this video in that you've already installed the SAP HANA data provisioning agent. If you're not sure how to do it, if you do a search for our website, which is academy.saphana.com, that will link you to our YouTube channel. At the bottom of this YouTube channel, you'll see that we've got a section called provisioning, and there's 60 plus videos on SAP HANA Smart Data Integration and Smart Data Quality. There's a few videos in this playlist that we'll assume you have watched. So one of them is on how to install the SAP HANA data provisioning agent. Now it's got a kind of a funny name. It's actually this video on Twitter replication part 1 of 3, because essentially the install is very similar. Now as you can see, this video was for SPS 09. I installed the SPS 12 version, so it's essentially the latest version available within Service Marketplace. This gives us both the connectivity to Hive as well as file formats, which we're going to look at in the next video. So you'll need to watch this video. Additionally, it will be useful if you are also to watch the second video, which is on user authorizations. We're going to create a specific user to carry out some tasks, and that user will need some rights. I'm going to recap it very quickly here, but if you want more in-depth information, it's a good idea to watch that user authorizations video as well. Now, if I go back to the home page, we've also got some other videos that you might find useful. If I go right down to our provisioning folder again, we have 45 videos on SAP HANA Smart Data Access. So this includes connecting to Hadoop and creating what are called remote data sources. So it would be useful for you to watch the Hadoop specific videos in this playlist, because again it will help you and give you more information on how we connect SAP HANA to Hadoop. We've got various ways of doing it, and this playlist will show you all the different ways. So assuming you've installed that data provisioning agent, what we're going to have to do firstly is create ourselves a specific user within the SAP HANA Studio. So of course we use the SAP developer tools for Eclipse on this S4 HANA partner image. And again, watching those few videos within the Academy's website will help you understand some of the concepts I'm going to go through quite quickly in this video. So one of the first things that we need to do when we've logged into the SAP HANA Studio is check that the DP server is on. So I'm going to do this in my SAP HANA administration console. You've been using the ABAP console in previous videos. We'll select the system connection. You should have 3, of course: BPinst, SAP HANA DB, and system. And then when you select system, you can select here your console. So the first thing, again, it's covered in the video how to turn on the data provisioning server, is to make sure that that DP server is on. So on the right hand side, you'll need to click on the tab which is landscape. And here you can see in a few seconds that the DP server here is on. So when you've done that, what we're going to do is create ourselves a specific user. So I'm going to launch myself a SQL console, and we're going to run the following script. So what we're going to do is essentially create ourselves a user called SHA user. We're creating a package called SHA user, and the main 3 rights we have to allocate are these 3 at the end, which enables us to create a remote source, administrate the adapters and also the agents. So they're really the only 3 rights you have to add as that user. But I'm going to run this script. It's all explained in that user authorizations video. So when you've executed that, what we should do on the left-hand side now we've created that user, is create a connection. So I'm going to right-click on my system connection, add system with a different user, and what we'll do is we're going to add that SHA user login, and of course password 1 as the password. And of course what's going to happen is that you will be prompted to change the password. So if I click next and finish, all you'll have to do is enter yourself in a new password. So I'll type in the old password here, and I'll type in my new password here, and then I'll click on OK. Okay, we can see the password's changed. So now that we've created that login, we can close this SQL console window. And what we just need to do is allocate one more right. And we need to execute this as the SHA user. So I'll select the SHA user, and then I'll launch a SQL console from here, and we'll run this script from this window specifically for the SHA user. So this is going to give the sysrepo user access to our schema, and this will help us with modeling later on. So once you've done that, now we've actually finished creating our user, which we're going to use and which will house our Hadoop tables. So the next step is to configure the data provisioning agent. So we can leave the SAP HANA Studio on. Now what I'll do is, I've already installed the DP agent, so I'm going to launch it by going to SAP HANA Data Provisioning Agent Configuration. I'll maximize the window. And what we need to do firstly is connect to our HANA system. So I'm going to click on Connect to HANA here on the left hand side. We'll then put in, of course, the IP address of my HANA server. We'll put the port, which for me is 30215, and then we're going to log in as that user, which is called SHA user, and we'll then put in our password, and then I'll click on Connect. So there's a few tasks that we have to do here. Firstly, we need to register our SAP HANA Data Provisioning Agent by clicking on Register Agent. I'm going to create an agent called STI_agent connecting to my Windows Remote Desktop. So this is the IP address of this machine. Of course, the 37 was the IP address of the HANA box. So then I'll click on Register. We're basically telling HANA where the SAP HANA Data Provisioning Agent is. I'll click on OK. And once you can see that it's registered and we can see that the agent started and we've connected to HANA, this is where we can switch on our adapters. So in this video, we're going to be looking at the Hive adapter. So I'm going to click on Register Adapter. And then we'll click on Yes. And then we'll click on OK. So there's no real configuration to be done here within our data provisioning agent. There's just one more task that needs to be done. So if I go to my Windows Explorer, and we're going to go to my D drive where I've installed that data provisioning agent, which is on USR SAP Data Prov Agent, there's a folder called lib. So essentially we need to place a JDBC file in here which enables us to connect to Hive. So which JDBC file do we use? Well, it all depends on your version of Hive. So the way you can find that out is by going back to your browser, and if you go to your specific version of Ambari, again it depends if you followed my videos or if you're using your own version of Hadoop. But in Ambari, all you need to do is go to Stacks and Versions here on the top right hand side. And then if I scroll down, I can see Hive is actually version 121. So this means I'm going to have to install or put a single file within that lib folder here, which is 121. There are many different versions of Hive depending on which HDP, for example, you've installed. So I'm going to put in again the version 121. So where do we get that from? Well, if I launch a tab, we need to go and get the specific version of JDBC for Hive. So this is where you can get it from. So I'll just paste in the URL here. So it's repo.hortonworks.com/content repositories releases org Apache Hive and then hive-jdbc. So essentially you need to get the version for your system. Now for me, if I go right to the bottom, these are all the different versions of Hive. Ours was 121, so you can actually take any version of this 121. If I go right to the end, I'm actually going to take the latest version, which was released in June, end of June. So all I need to do is go into that folder, and there's a file called standalone.jar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to download that by selecting it. It's only 18 meg for me. I'm going to keep the file, and if I go to my downloads folder, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that file and I'm going to place it into my lib folder. So I'll right click on the file, I'll cut the file, and then again I'll go to D, USR, and then we'll go to SAP Data Prov agent and then the lib folder. So I'll paste the file here in this folder. But what we essentially need to do is give the file a name. So essentially in this version of Hive, which I think was anything above 0.14, you only need to put one of these files, where in previous versions, for example in 0.13 of Hive, you'd need to put 3 or 4. And of course, everything's explained in the videos and on help.sap.com. But essentially what I do is I copy this file, paste it, and I'm going to rename the copy. And I'm just going to give it the name of the extension. So if I rename the file and take away anything after the version that I'm going to call in the remote data source, you'll understand this in the next video. So I'm going to call it essentially hive-jdbc-121.jar. So essentially we've got that file. That's all we need to do. So once you've got this file with this naming format in this folder, we've actually finished the configuration of the SAP HANA data provisioning agent. So again, just to summarize what we've done in this video, we've configured the SAP HANA data provisioning agent, we've switched on the Hive adapter, and we've also created a user within the SAP HANA Studio, which we're going to use, called SHA user. Now what we're going to do in the next video is create the connection to our Hadoop system from the SAP HANA Studio, and then we're going to create a virtual table, which is that Airport Web Services CSV file which resides in Hadoop.